Hello, welcome back. I'm on it. Okay. Hey guys. Okay, I'm a little bit silly now. I just have to yeah, so so I hope you just okay. Good. Yeah, so I hope you had a good break. And maybe we just run directly into our little Q&A session here. The way that we're going to do this is that down in the participants list at the bottom of the list, you're going to, no, is that true? Participants list, yes, here. You're going to find this raise hand function. And when you would like to engage, when you have a question for whatever I'm sharing, or it's just time for the next wave of topic, you simply push that raise hand function. And then I'm going to have you unmuted from this end, and then we're going to converse. And we're going to flow with it basically the same way that we do with the Gateway Online meetings. Yeah. So to engage, raise hand function. And afterwards, you're going to be remuted, and we keep moving from there. Yeah. Yeah, so the meditations, the meditation has mentioned a good number of topics which are quite relevant to this living integration, to this course here. And we're going to touch in on these different aspects, which I brought into the picture there. But what I would really like to do is to hold these aspects up against up against your living lives. So what would be really good is if we can bring up these different topics which are relevant to you in your living life. Overall, I could run through like a list of all of these different aspects of our living lives, to bring in like some of the clarity points, so to speak, things awaiting clarification and resolution inside, not to mention commitment inside of these different aspects, whether that be family or yeah, like work or a relationship with ourselves, or the creation of a home base, or like whatever that may be. So you're welcome to bring in these different topics as we move along. Yeah. First off, I want to say that the sharing that I offer is very all-inclusive. So while the meditations, they were touching on deep inner levels of that living as truth in form, and basically invites for or offers the foundation of what we need to actually apply ourselves as reality to our living lives. So inside of that bowing of the heart, the bowing of our love to the ground, and inside of that, the bending of the mind to actually be of in deep humility and of service to that ground of being. That it's inside of that I find that all of the answers and all of the wisdom keys basically cannot fold, which is exactly what this is about. It's about that living, the integration, living the integrated state, and to allow that living of truth through everything. So I'm open to converse with you and share with you based on this. And my background basically is the fact that I've been living a very human life up until I'm 40 years of age now, but it's been parenting, it's been family resolutions, it's been work resolution, it's been sexuality resolution, it's been basically just resolution, friends, and like everything that is involved with living a human life, basically to its fruition. Yeah. All right, maybe we start with Julia. Julia, are you on? Seems like Julia's sound is not working. I can't hear anything, at least. Julia, could you try again? Say something? Yeah, you need to do a little piece of work on getting your mic set, it seems. Okay, I'm going to continue then. Please do sort whatever you need to sort, and then we'll bring you in later. Yeah. One thing I want to bring to the center of this sharing is basically that the whole journey of being human seems to be fully dependent on our loyalty to truth. Seems to be fully dependent on our willingness to fully unite with reality, to fully become as deep as we at all can, and that's through our whole lives, the level of deepening with reality. So it's not really about becoming someone, or even less about becoming someone special, but indeed very much it's about becoming more and more and as deeply yourself as that naked face to reality, which is being itself. So a lot of your workings in regards to your human life is basically about you finding out how to solve your own puzzles in a way that removes these angles of yourself which you believe to be somebody. And it's not because you become nobody, it's just because that manifestation of your being, it doesn't have that inner personal notation to it somehow, that inner reference point or referral back to me and my experience, for instance. With that said, though, I want to say also that a big part of coming into the intimacy with the infinity is very much about taking that experience which is yours and allowing for its completion, that somehow is its purpose, is its own fulfillment, which basically dissolves its foundation, its basis for being something or someone, or and all of this. So in many ways we are standing to discover deeply and directly how and that everything is actually nothing in most ways. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just right now, I just want to basically outline the basis for living a human life. And I do that before we venture into these different aspects of the daily life, because they're kind of needed at the core to be able to tie our meeting with the human reality, to link that back to the center of what's actually going on in our engagement with the human experience. So this is why I'm mentioning these things. Yeah. A significant part to mention is the ebb and flow of life and death. It's that natural happening of the breath of consciousness, which basically is like a breath between love and silence in many ways. And that love can be love at its deepest point of manifestation as the radical compassion. And in its next stage of moving, it's that love which is just in the wide open, which is light consciousness. And in its next phase, you could say that basically love disappears. So in that sense, and then through its disappearance, then there's nothing until the next arising happens. And through these stages of love, basically, it becomes like the experiential reality goes between the silence, which is the background of everything, and that experience that comes as this rising of our perception, as which then can differ between the somebodiness and the pure consciousness. So that's a little bit how it moves, basically, and what is a part of what we move out with when we have anything to do with anything, really. Yeah. As I mentioned in the meditation, one of the core points of walking in this life I have found to be trust. That trust in life which determines that we're able to be in life even when fear can rise in the equation. That we choose love over and over and over again. And that we choose to apply that love both as our own inner knowing and to everything that we touch. And you know, the moment that we have anything to do with existence, our ignorance is bound to reflect itself back to us. So no matter what we touch, there is an invitation there to see, to actually witness your own engagement and to allow for the deeper surrender to love inside of that engagement. Yeah. Let's have Julia for a while. If her sound is on now.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hey, I definitely can.
Hi. My question is about my experience at this moment of keep choosing fear and fear and fear over love. And during the meditation today, I felt this, huge lump that was tangled of all that is dead in me with all that is alive.
You get close.
Yes, sure. There is this huge lump of all these threads that were dead in me with all that is alive. Mm-hmm. And there is something in me that cannot put them apart. cannot see them apart and basically burns it all together. So I'm killing myself with inability to put them apart. And I'm burning it all, everything, brutally, mercilessly. And my question is, how do you mentioned choosing love and love and love, and I'm choosing fear and fear and fear. And I feel drained now. um, and I feel like I lose to life, I lose to love. Life is so much stronger, love is so much stronger, and I lose to them. I'm not going ahead with them. And I feel like I'm losing my life to life. And my question is, how do I resurrect? How do I get the strength and the inspiration to resurrect when I'm completely drained out and when it's still leaking?
I think at the center of this, there is a choice of taking care of waiting. When we are faced with challenges in this life, when we're faced with all the ways in which we could not make a conscious choice, we always have the choice of the conscious choice. We have the choice of moving with what's real compared to stopping ourselves. That choice is within you simply because it is you. So there is something about coming into that willingness to live, the willingness to live despite whatever life may bring you. And there is nothing wrong with fear, but there is fear, and then there is acting and reacting out of fear. But then there's also you. Do you understand? There's you, and you can be compassionate with the one who is in fear. But that can't happen if you are fully identifying with the fear. So there's something about loosening that grip of yours. There's something about loosening that grip. And I'd say that there is a good amount of contemplation. I mean, some of the contemplations during this weekend are specifically touching this topic of fear and how much fear gets to impact, influence, run your life. But you need to investigate what it is that you're afraid of. You need to allow yourself a true meeting with this life of yours, which is partially about stopping, because that which is just running fearful movement is it needs to be stopped, not fought, but stopped. And the moment that you stop, you can become quiet, and when you're quiet, you can listen deeper. But the listening deeper can't happen in a frenzy of fear, acting and reacting and acting out. Yeah. To take our lives seriously, to take responsibility for our lives, also mean to stop that which is just running like a headless chicken. Yeah. And we need to want to take that responsibility. Because no one else is going to come and take that responsibility for you. You need to take the deepest core responsibility of your state of being. And that state of being needs to be held by you compassionately, in love, in kindness, in gentleness. And we all have it in us to turn that way. Inspiration is something which is naturally born when we choose love for ourselves. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to see it as the full scope of what that entails. All you have to deal with is the next step. The next step of what does it mean to choose love for yourself? What does it mean to choose love for reality? Love of everything. Does it make sense?
Feels like a backdrop.
Exactly. The fearful is always out there doing, pushing, pulling, all of this manipulation. But the real deal is that backdrop. It's the hands off, and to let life happen with the hands off. Exactly as I mentioned, beyond that controller of the mind, which is constantly moving out of fear. Control, and the controller is a fearful thing. It's a fearful aspect of the human being. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yes, and a final short question would be about reality, about what is real, about the ability to tell apart what is dead and what is alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it's not the controller asking. Could be.
Let's say it like this. What is reality? Well, reality can be perceived through different alleys of yourself, of your being. And on ground level, the perception of reality is equal to a complete return to innocence and attainment of humility. What is reality? On different levels of your being, it's different things. On the heart level, reality is the universal force. And yet, it's empty right behind that. On the mind level, reality, again, it's almost like at the centerpiece of things, then the answer is God. But prior to that, the answer is primordial silence or nothing. And as the next layer of that, we have compassion, basically. We have reality as the manifestation of pure being. Where did you go? Yeah. But it's like our dissolution of our identity is that which gets us deeper and deeper in touch with reality. And for reality to be all inclusive, we need to wear down these fearful contractions we have, both in our head and in our heart and in our bellies, which, well, when we dissolve them, we come to meet ourselves as reality. So the only thing standing between you and yourself as reality is basically fear. Fear and the inability to be fully facing yourself. The thing is, though, that when you face yourself, everything which is not yourself burns in the light of that. So reality, the best way many teachers refer, like point to it, is towards that silence. And it's true on one level. But I'd say that the silence of being is that which goes through every layer and level of ourselves in that recognition as reality. Yeah. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Mm. Mm.
And when the contractions don't seem to be stopping, like when there is a contraction after contraction upon contraction.
Yeah, but
Sure.
you have to apply yourself. You have to find out who you are. It's not a standing back as a, oh, it looks like this. It's like it's the deepest form of commitment to being present with whatever arises in you. This is a part. And when you're being present with what arises in you as a human being, then you're emptying out the levels of identification on the belly level. When you're being present with your limitation as love, when you are loving until you can't love anymore, we're talking about the heart. We're talking about the application of yourself as love and the unfolding of yourself as the action body, as the energy body of that universal force. Again, in there it's different, and it's different for the head also. What I'm talking about is the difference is the nature of that identity that arises in each of the spheres. So in the mind, it has one specific logic that you have to see through. And in the heart, it has a different logic. In the heart, the logic of the someone there is selfishness. And when you're dissolving that selfishness, then it unfolds the selfless. And then when you combine that selfless with the emptying in the belly, for instance, then the selfless fully includes you as a human being by being all inclusive, because that's what it means when truth gets to come all the way to the bottom of you, to empty out that contraction of someone on ground. But please see that every human being you meet here in this world basically is a manifestation of that contraction on ground. The spiritual or not spiritual people, doesn't matter. Most people are a someone on the ground. So when we're dissolving our somebodiness on the ground, again, it has yet another reflection, just like the selfishness at the heart level, like the selfishness and the fear basically towards the different levels of existence, the different realms of existence, the unknown, call it whatever you like. But on ground, it's our fear of power. And when I say power, I mean it as the deepest center of complete concentration of being. I'm talking about the power of creation. So when you address the bottom line, the power of creation, that's also a way where creativity, and when you speak about inspiration, where that appears. Yeah. But in that belly, it has a variety of other reflections, I could say. The identity there. It basically has all of the distortions away from our rest as pure innocence in pure power. Or I could even say the opening of the human being in innocence, in humility, to the presence of that pure power. And right there, the reflection is manipulation. The reflection is abuse of power. The reflection is pushing and pulling existence. And it's the deep distortion of a relationship with power, basically. Yeah. In the head, I'd say the somebodiness is very directly linked with that, the belief system in total. The part of believing that we are someone who knows something. So there's something about that inner grip in the head. It's almost like we have three doors, you know, a door through the belly, a door through the heart, and a door through the head. And there's like a monkey standing on the other side of that door. And it's gonna do whatever it can to like mess things up. So there's something about coming in to hold yourself in love there, because unless there is a holding in love, you can be sure that the monkey is playing, basically. And it's the same for the belly and the heart. But there are different levels of responsibility we need to take on different levels of our being when it comes to that dissolution to reality. So when something where you say like this, the fear appears and it appears and it appears, there's nothing wrong with that. What you need to do is, as fear pops up and pops up, that you have to become more and more and more present, to come in to actually hold the root of that which is causing the fear to constantly arise. You understand? It's kind of like that fear, it arises, but arises out of fear of something. It's fear of something. And whether that fear comes from the heart, or it's fear through the mind, or fear through the belly, then actually it's the part of meeting source and surrendering to source, which is at the center of that. And I find that we actually need to be extremely thorough in our investigation of the rising of the fear inside, instead of just taking it for, oh, here it is again, here it is again. I'm saying that we can actually, with proper investigation, with proper dedication, with proper commitment, we can descend in through the root of where fear arises from. That means that fear, we can pass that part where the reptilian brain basically automatically kicks off this fear reaction in the body that takes over the body. And I haven't yet experienced that it completely removes on a human level the possibility of fear. But I'd say that when you root in reality, the appearance of fear that can touch and roll through the human experience or human existence, it basically goes only so deep. You know, it only goes just through the very upper layer of the skin. And that means that at the center of you, there is deep certainty, deep solidity of knowing. So if you're filled up by trust, you're filled up by presence, then even if things happen in life that can shake you or whatever a little, you know, And not that that's like a common occurrence, but like if bigger things happen in life, that's somehow like, oh, you have to adjust to that. In my experience, then now it just ripples over the, and it's definitely to be taken and held with almost like a preciousness, that fear, like to not bypass it or dismiss it, but to like, even though it's only skin deep, then actually to hold it and let it have space, but from a compassionate place. Do you understand? Yeah. But it's like to come to that point where your core is never shaken in terms of fear, then you actually have to root in your core. And that is, as you say, it's a dropping back. It's a dropping back into your body, back into your core. And when you are in your core, you stabilize as your core. And whenever you're dealing with your human existence, you're doing it from a place of complete commitment to allow that core of silence in you to come in to permeate whatever you're touching, be it work, be it family, be it whatever it is. And let your hands touch whatever it needs to touch exactly to come to the resolution point in everything. For instance, with family, like we have to touch, we have to be aware, we have to let our eyes move into the ancestral work to actually see these resolutions that then makes that area of the parents, for instance, makes that completely quiet. That makes that to a natural happening, a natural unfolding of love between souls, where all of a sudden it's not about parental patterns and like, you know, but at the same time, I don't see that there's like a dismissal of anything within that. You know, the real beauty of that can still be there. Like, for instance, the love affair that I'm experiencing with my parents is, it has both aspects of parent and daughter in a sweet way. But again, that parent-daughter thing is like only so deep. And then within that, we're just dancing with the beauty of our souls connecting deeper and deeper. And they're just coming into reality out of this meeting with me now, you know? So there are, it's like no matter which aspect, we need to touch it for whatever it is. We need to deal with it on a realistic level. When I say realistic, I mean that we have to touch whatever area of life that we're touching with the complete commitment to see through the detail, I could almost say, without getting lost in the detail. The commitment to be with the delicacy, the accuracy, the precision of the area without getting lost in it. So to not be lost in it, we have to root and root deeper and root deeper. So that all of the love that gets manifest through our being in the world goes as deeply into existence as it goes out of existence and into the silence. And then we're back to that breath of consciousness that I was speaking about. That whatever depth we enter this existence with as love, as deeply also we must be called back into that silence. Simply to keep on rooting deeply into the darkness and as deeply into light, you know? Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I'm like stacked with presents up to my chin. Thank you for the mapping.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Julia. Mm. Yeah. The different areas of life that we're touching, I feel it's very significant to get exactly those keys that has been like in over here now, because it's those keys that counts for everything. Everything we touch, everything we move to dissolve and to find resolution within. To live integrated has two sides to it. It means to live the life that you're meant to live, but to do so from a deep inner alignment with your being. So to fully face yourself and everything that you are, and to let that basically uproot all of that which you're not. And to let yourself land in the deepest dedication and the deepest and deeper and deeper longing to fully unite with truth. However crazy it may sound, our lives are designed for us to attain specific experiences that seems to be a part of our print. But through those and the fulfillment of those, somehow to watch these points disappear, to watch the fact that our movement into life has the opposite effect than what we thought when we actually wanted something. That somehow there is a deep reward in aligning with pure will over that moving with wanting, because it's kind of like the moment we move with the wanting, there is a translation of that which could be a deep surrender, which could be a deep alignment with life itself. And that translation itself basically has manipulation as at the core of it. So we're very much faced in the part of living reality, the part of living fully effaced with our fearful human nature, and to live fully realistically with that, and yet to choose to live love instead of the fear, because we can spend a whole life just living fear. Most people do. Most people in that state of somebodiness are living like that. But if we want something different, we're going to have to choose it for ourselves. We're going to have to make that inner statement which defends our right to be truly alive somehow, which stands by our deep inner longing to be real, our deep inner, I could almost say, that kind of knowing where you know that there is something more than this. It's almost like a specific inner statement, like to know that there is more than this. There's more that I'm living now. There's more than just the next attainment. There's more than just all of that which is the result of moving with that wanting. And we have to steer ourselves back into the arms of our true alignment, with ourselves, and through that with nature, through that with reality. The deepest listening to our real selves, and to be willing also to walk with full-fledged courage all the up to the edge of that uncomfortable edge of our limitation, the uncomfortable edge of the edge of our belief our beliefs, which are simply made from mere conclusions and guesswork and what someone else said. Like, what do we actually have left if we let that go? As I said in the meditation, that part of arriving in non-knowing and to let life happen from a deep, deeper, even deeper trust. And the courage that that takes from us to be able to stand in the face of the humility and the innocence of that, to not know. Imagine that for a second. Imagine your life turning right now towards having to operate on life. Imagine right now what it would mean for you or to you to lose all of the ways in which you're tripping your own legs when it comes to your own surrender, to your own owning of your deepest vulnerability, your deepest innocence, your deepest humility to life. It's not a small thing, I tell you. But maybe right now, let yourself just taste for a moment what would it mean if you no longer were allowed or able to apply your ideas to your life. Your beliefs to your life. Because right there is an invitation. And it's standing there, that invitation, every freaking moment of your life. And every moment that you choose to follow your head, to respect your beliefs, respect your ideas, is another moment where life is standing right there waiting for you. It's a massive maturation that we're going through and that we have to go through as these humans. Maturation in our relationship with ourselves as humans, that which develops all of the human qualities like integrity, like discernment, like all of these things. But same for every other aspect of reality. I'm bringing some pretty fatal notions to the table. I'm aware of that. But I just want to let you taste for a moment what the difference is between what you're living, what you're choosing to live, what you're doing and choosing to do, and what it means to actually become so emptied and to lose your strategies and your operating systems and lose those to life itself. It's fully a journey. It's a journey. But it's a journey that starts with a full yes. And more than that, it's a journey that continues with your full yes. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. No, 7-minute break, I can see. Chew it up nicely. I'll see you in 7 minutes. Hello, Carly, Rob, and so on and so forth. Hello. Yeah. Yeah, so what I would like is if you guys want to bring specific areas of your living life that you're working with, because I have a good number of keys here to plug into any of all of these areas. I've been walking with, all of the most usual kinds, areas of this existence. And but I would like to serve it to someone who can take the plug-in directly. So I'd like for you guys to raise a hand so we can play. Hey. All right, let's play, Natalia.
Hello.
Hey.
So great to be here and to have possibility to ask a question. This is the areas I've been walking around for a while. It's about boundaries. That's, it seems to me. Maybe you would point out something completely different. It seems to me that I have this movement inside when I'm meeting people, even on the hike, that I totally dive into them. It's almost like I meet a huge area, huge field of feelings coming through me and passing. And of course, if I'm strong and present, it's just the experience. But if I'm not, then it creates a lot of very unpleasant feelings and judgments, and usually it a lot of fear, and usually it's just I try to stay away or protect myself, all this stuff. But also, like, let's say with my parents, it comes into even physical experiences of like high blood pressure because my parents have it, and so on. So how to navigate, please?
Okay, let's play. Okay, look. When you say this about you dart into them, what you have to investigate what makes you make that movement. Because the place where you belong is deeply inside yourself. So the moment you meet someone else, you want to give yourself away. So you dart out of yourself and into the other, and all of a sudden you have to deal with everything that is involved with that. What makes you make that movement. This you have to get to the bottom of, because it's an automatic movement that you're setting off, but it's based on something. So your job now is to work yourself out of that automatic movement, to bring more consciousness, to become more aware of what is it actually that's going on in you when you are about to make that movement. Because there is something that makes you bail on yourself. And I can say a little bit about what it is, but I'm thinking maybe you have to discover
It's,
for yourself also.
it's been so elusive. I've been touching it, but I'm completely blind. I go completely black. Like I
Now, tell
no
me, yeah,
idea.
tell me what you have discovered, and then I will see if it's something that I'm allowed to take you down through.
Well, maybe it's more my mind playing. Is that to I've been hurt, and then I probably learned how to monitor feelings of other people so that I can prepare or defend myself, and to do that monitoring, to 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 know what's going on with them, if they would, in a state that is dangerous for me, or something like this. That's my just assumption, but like it feels like, yeah, it's so beyond my comprehension right now. I cannot catch that feeling. I cannot be with it. I cannot face it. It's so elusive right now, but for a while.
Let's just say this, that you say, like, I cannot be with it. You have to, a conclusion like that, never go for something like that. But you can acknowledge what your capacity is right now. If the moment that you're thinking like that, thinking, I can't touch it, I mean, that conclusion in itself reconfirms the fact that you aren't dropping into it. So I'm just saying, be careful with your mind, because it is a part of pushing things into place. But what it seems to me is that you need to get on the line of that love for yourself, which brings you out of the line of going into pleasing. Because a big part of that which just automatically jumps out, it's something with trying to control the situation. But so it's like a immediate and constant movement of manipulation. You're trying to control the situation all the time by making that move. So you need to, as consciousness, as with a conscious agreement with yourself, to move yourself from this fragmentation into the projection out of yourself. You need to start gathering yourself into self-love. And it means to fall in love with yourself on so many levels of your existence, on every level of your existence, of course. But especially when it comes to this, with gathering love around and in yourself, in your body, to come to the self-rest and to come to the self-love, basically. There is that need for you to face yourself rather than other. Because it's like, it's a, it's, however paradoxical it sounds, love never really reaches outside itself. When people feel really loved, it's because you are not making something out of them. Because then they are loved for what they are. So the deeper you can rest with yourself, the more a human being in front of you can feel loved by you. It's paradoxical, huh? Because we like to think about this with giving our love away. And it's so often that giving each other love, that it becomes someone loving. And not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just not accurate. Because the reality of the situation is that the deeper that we rest inside of our own selves, the more love opens to pour from us towards the other, but in a completely grasping and non-grasped manner. So if you are to start living love, you have to face yourself. You have to face all of the ways in which you are not loving yourself. And you can already see that this jumping out and into others to check where they're at, it's a control movement. And since it's a control movement, and since you are you have the option of giving up that control. You have the option of going opposite your pattern here. This is you taking responsibility for yourself. And you may say right now that it's like I cannot do it, or it's too evasive. It's true as your experience in the moment, but it's your will to, it's your application to move opposite that pattern, which is going to bring you closer to yourself. But you see, you can't bring you closer to yourself without facing all of that in you, which you don't want to see, which you don't want to be with. And that's, as far as I can see, it's a whole fan of feelings that you can't accept about yourself, because you don't have very kind or loving feelings towards yourself. And all of that has to be met, of course. That's a part of us integrating. It's the part of us integrating, I can almost say, because we can't actually operate in this world as ourselves if we are rejecting ourselves at the same time, of course. So that falling in love with ourselves as a centering into the beingness of us, but also meeting ourselves on these deeply human levels, and meeting ourselves as compassion on these different levels, and taking responsibility for our state of being, for our way of moving, is a major part of it, of course. Does it make sense?
Yes, definitely. And another not little piece, is that when you were talking about trusting life, I realized that I'm getting closer and closer to, at least I'm open into trusting life. But at the same time, I realized that I don't trust myself. It's even like easy for me now to trust life than myself. Like it's
One thing is that it's basically surrender in two different directions. The one that you say, trusting life, is kind of like a surrender to letting go in the direction that life is taking you. And that's an outward movement. To trust yourself is to let that surrender happen inwards also. So it hollows you out. So you become loved as a part of that life in a way which eliminates the subtleties of that identity of separation. You see yourself as apart from life, because otherwise, how can you trust life without trusting yourself, if life and you is the same thing? So we're talking about some really deep roots of identification that needs to dissolve, and they can only dissolve by you turning inwards towards the brokenness of you as woman. But you feel like you can't trust yourself as woman. But the thing is that you don't need to be able to trust yourself as woman. You need to be able to trust yourself, to love yourself as woman. And through there, the woman can unfold inside of you. Do you understand?
yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Mm. Mm. Thank you, Natalia. Yeah. I want to return a little bit to what I spoke about with the maturation, because a part of that maturation's happening is the same as losing the inner reactivity towards anything. So actually ask yourself right now if you have an inner drama queen, even the guys. So the inner drama queen is basically that happening, the rising of fear towards any meeting with any part of reality, any part of existence. The moment that you rear up inside, the dramatic part is making something out of nothing. So the maturation, a part of our maturation is very much for the mind to come into a deep relaxation with the paradoxical nature of all things. It's kind of crazy. Like we actually have to lose our minds in a good way, but to lose it so completely that we're done picking and taking pieces of information and trying to box them and trying to manage them in a way so we can control them and analyze them and all of this. What I'm finding is that on an even deeper level than the use of the mind for stuff like this, we can collect, and through our intelligence of surrendering to the looking, the witnessing, the looking deeper and deeper into something, we can uncover the patterns of existence, the patterns of ourselves. And basically, this is the tool for everything to slide into place. But it's like our maturity and our being responsible for that inner part of us which rears up, becomes dramatic in the face of anything. And that's the same as saying it rears up as a fear reaction. And that fear reaction can be either excitement or fear. It's the same thing happening in the biology. That happening there is that which is needing a continuous re-diving into the ocean, a deeper relaxation, a deeper relaxation, a deeper relaxation. And that is the more that we come into life in all of its, I could say splendor, you know? Because the more we relax in, and then another fear reaction happens, and something inside of us makes something out of, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in that moment, we just have to assist that rising there back into relaxation. You see, this is the key. This is the core of coming into a harmonious life. When I say harmonious, I don't mean like, but I mean harmonious in the sense where life can move in massive waves, but there is no inner reactivity. So that reactivity which grasps at life or pushes life away or gets excited or gets fearful, like all of these different maneuvers that we make inside when we are meeting these pieces of, well, what is immature. Everything is just waiting to get back to that silence. So for that which is reactive inside of us, it is definitely back to the flat line, right? because that is what is needed if life is to make its proper waves. Otherwise, there is life, and then there is our little opinion of life and our reactivity towards life. And then we clash. It's like we don't know how to surf. We don't know how to be quiet. We don't know how to let life happen without the inner rearing up. And that's a big obstacle, of course, to living the integration, living the depth, living the deep relaxation into the intensity of life itself. And it's that relaxation into life itself that allows that rise of intensity that just brings more and more life into our equation. Not as someone powerful, but not the opposite either. Just to integrate that life that then gets to wave in its stronger and stronger movements that basically makes the impact of our life just roll in over existence. Yeah. But that harmony definitely comes from getting our inner reactions in check, strengthening our core of ability to be silent with, our ability to relax through. And of course, when we're talking about the ground opening and the real integration, then we're also talking about coming into the same relaxation with every kind of human feeling that exists, which means, of course, also the wearing down of that limited sense of self, which is on ground, which gets fully overwhelmed when the waves go higher than what it's used to. What we can make a statement of here now is that every part of life awaits the same commitment from you. Every part of life is calling for the same commitment from you. When I say commitment, I mean that part of being fully present in, and to do it from a willingness to both allow the wide and vast presence in, but also at the same time to let the fingers touch into the delicacy, into the intimacy of what we're touching, so that the delicacy and infinity comes together in our movement. Because if we're trying to handle deeply delicate business in this existence, like our wiring, like the deep feelings of other people, or our interconnection, or our karmic connection, or our ancestral connection, or like if we're trying to handle any of this without wanting to get our hands dirty, basically, without wanting to touch into that part of existence which we don't have full agreement to be in, then right there's a teaching. Right there is a teaching. Because what life is actually waiting for is for you to flow as the deepest part of you into every part of your human existence. And when we get to this talk, people stand in one of two boats. There are the people who want to think as, I want this to be over, so I will have to dig in, but from a place of wanting it to be over. And then there are the people who don't want it to be over and who won't accept the fact that when we are fulfilling our humanness, then things dissolve. So some people want it to be all about life, and some people want it to be all about death. And I'm saying it's neither. I'm saying you have to go into life with the full commitment, as if every moment requires your full forever. And when I say your full forever, I mean your full heart, your full attention, your full love, your full commitment, your full yes. But in doing that, you can't do it from a place of getting attached to that delicacy that you're touching. You can't do it with a getting attached and some movement of wanting to last forever thing. Because life, specifically when it comes to the resolution of our work, of our friends, of our family, and all of this experience, that the resolution itself requires our full commitment. But the moment we give our full commitment, then actually that which was the reason we had to give our full commitment disappears. And it doesn't mean that our full commitment then is gone from that equation. It just means that somehow that which we had to fall in love with in that equation already is fully included in us somehow. So it stops being something. Can you follow what I'm saying? Yeah. It's kind of like we fight against parts of existence until we surrender. And when we surrender, we do it with a fear, that the fear of disappearing into the equation. And then when we move into the equation, then that which was something stops being something. And then it's all nothing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to, on a physical manifest level, be nothing. Does that make sense? Is it hard to understand what I'm saying? Yeah? Okay, an example. Okay, in our intimate relationships, for instance, we move together. That which moves us together basically is the fact that we have a hand and a glove that fits together in terms of wounding. So we're working on this wounding, and we're working for it to not be an obstacle to the harmonious living, right? The thing is, though, that the someone inside of us, the someone that we are, the someone who wants that harmony, is the obstruction to the harmony being the case. So in that sense, it's a little bit like a quite a sad equation, because it's actually not until we give up the wanting in the equation that we can truly emerge inside of that harmony. So that makes the wanting in itself into basically like an obstacle. But right here again, we're in that with the two boats, because the thing is that it's an obstacle, but we can't avoid it either, because we can't condemn it to be out of wanting, because we have to dance with the nature of that purification of passion. Desire is like a reflection of that, but the desire itself is like a turning point on the pure passion. So we have to live it, but we have to live it to silence. So the passion gets to come to life, but but without the desire, basically. And that's the same as saying that the passion of love is to come to be present in you, as you, in everything you touch, every part of your life. But actually, that your arrival as that presence will remove your desire to be any particular part or in any particular relation to any of the things that you are including in that love. So the desire goes away, but the passion remains. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any questions to that? It's funny how that harmony of the human existence really definitely deeply relies on us to return to ourselves and learning to love without the somebodyness involved. And isn't that in most ways basically what completely determines how we handle anything in our lives? So as to live the integration is basically to constantly apply your deepest knowing, your deepest being, your deepest you to whatever equation you're in. And yes, it does mean to deeply relate to everything. You have a center of reality to return to. And there's deep longing involved with that. But there is also the call for deep respect and compassion for the human being. Believe it or not, your human is actually like a little animal. So I'd like to bring your place in life to the table here. I'd like to invite you to bring that which is significant in your consideration of what it means to live reality. And let's go.
Something is happening. I have so many questions.
Wonderful.
It's about emotions. Recently, I listened your interview where you mentioned how to deal with very deep, intense emotions. You mentioned hollowing out, like connecting to the center of the earth, because a couple of times I had immensely strong emotions and I didn't know how to deal with it, and my physical body helped me in a way. So pains appeared and they stayed with me for many years. So what do you mean by hollowing out? Exactly, what is the movement when the emotion is so deep, so strong that like particularly strong, so to speak?
You're drawing on the on the recent interview that I was.
Yes.
Yes. And what I was explaining in there is basically the pathway for the dissolution of our well, basically our interior. That interior which has the human experience and the human feelings as its own point of completion, so to speak. And what I was speaking about is, I was just giving a few keywords on how the divine feminine actually integrates. When you're talking about this with the passing of pain and things like this, it requires the same holding, but there's that which is born out of things getting healed, and then there's that which is more like a reflection upon our inner inner experiential feeling capacity or dashboard, I would say, like our inner ability to feel feelings and to let them be felt fully intimately. To feel something fully intimately means to be able to hold, and by hold I mean stay present, not rejecting and not grasping at a feeling. We all know what it looks like when you grasp at a feeling. All of a sudden, the feeling is no longer just a feeling. All of a sudden, we take it personally, right? So when we're able to be present with a feeling without drawing it into a storyline, then we can meet the feeling directly. But we can only do that as our masculine, as presence. And to be fully present with a feeling, and then to let that feeling show itself in its deepest and most intimately like body filling reality basically seems to me like it's hollowing out these tubes into the earth where we're able to deal with and be present with these feelings. The main I could almost say concern, but it's like the purpose of the feminine is to bring consciousness to its own full experience of that feminine. It's like the meeting between consciousness and matter is there because consciousness wants to experience matter in its fullest all the way to the bottom. So when we're allowing these experiences of our inner feeling capacity, both in the variety of feelings and in the deep, deep, deep depths of them, then we're actually hollowing that out, which holds some kind of surface towards deeper, like some kind of containment of we can stand only these feelings, we can't stand these feelings. Or if we can stand all feelings, then we can only stand them to this depth. And then the moment that they are more intense than that, then we can't stand them, you know? So it's kind of like completely growing beyond this container of preference towards the feminine and towards feeling. So we need to expand both that way and that way to fully basically get to the bottom of. And there is a to the bottom of. My experience is that when we have, and this is individual, there are certain feelings that certain people want to experience to a certain depth. So you're going to have to taste every part of that piano, and you're going to have to taste each feeling as deeply as it takes until that part of you is satisfied, that keeps on recreating situations in that reflection of actually from a deeper being place, wanting to have that experience deeper. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are some feelings which are to the point, and there are some feelings which are definitely not to the point. And all of those feelings which we generate out of the somebodiness, because right there, you're in the hands of the feminine in the sense that she can make up endless, endless arrays, you know, she can make up endless creations, endless worlds. But when it comes to the real feelings, that which isn't, I could say, made up, although it all is in some sense, but that which is basically just as real as your body is, there are those feelings that requires a deep, deep surrender into the very bottom of our being in these different alleyways of our feeling. Yeah. And as we hollow them out, we make room for the pure passion, or the pure power, I could say, and that pure power of creation. But as long as we have that edge within our sense of feeling that makes the emotion flip into somebody, like into story, then we just have more edge to wear down in terms of the depth or the expanse of how much we can take whatever experience that it is that we're calling for from this depth of being.
In that case of the physical pain appeared in the moment when I couldn't hold the emotion. I since then, for many years, I didn't feel that emotion so strongly anymore. It's almost like my physical body locked that emotion up. And now it feels to me that I have to somehow to unlock, to experience again,
yes.
To have another second chance, so to speak.
Yes.
And I'm ready for it. I'm saying, bring it on.
Yes.
But of course, it's not for me to decide. But
no, but it is also, there is something about the intent, you know, the intention of you, that if you're open to that, then gently you can start opening that door again, you know? I mean, I've had my own experiences of that also. I mean, some of the very early years of my experience of ecstasy, for instance, or my experience of like pleasure, like in my early 20s, I had in those periods where basically I was just deeply surrendering to God. And I would end up in where I was like for 3.5 or 4 days, I would be in such a state of rapture, like so ecstatic that it was like when I was just not using my body, it was just like being like on the top of an orgasm. And then the moment I would use my body, it would be completely like I couldn't stand it. Like, and after that role, it took me a good many years after, because I kind of actually, it was like I couldn't take it in the end. So something had to turn away from that, because I couldn't keep on standing that level of ecstasy in the body. And that, again, it's the same thing. It took me some years to get back to being able to open that door and to walk in there consciously. Now, consciously being able to be and hold that depth and level of passion in the body. But it's kind of the same thing, even though the feeling is different, you know? Is that part when we make some inner statement that something is too much. That statement alone can turn us away from whatever it is. And it's of course these statements that we've made also early in our lives in so many ways that we need to undo these statements that we've made, because they basically lock out parts of our relaxation into our full human experience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I wonder if I can walk into any of the, or maybe we open that tomorrow. Yeah. A little something which is back to the main or the core stabilization within inner knowing that is required for us to live, integrated, for us to live ourselves out into whatever we're touching. And very much it's about that facing the eternal, rooting with the eternal in the silence. And then the moment that we're handling existence, to do that with the complete commitment, with the complete love and the complete dedication, to let that silence manifest into whatever we're touching. Not from a wanting place, but from a surrendering place. So there is this continuous flow invited in our lives between deepening into the vastness and letting that vastness then touch this existence in a way where the vastness gets to flow in and empty and allow for all of the resolutions that you need on a human level to know that there is no inner and outer, there is no difference between the silence and the movement. How important do you think that is for living integration? to know that there is no difference between this existence and the deepest core of silence. You see the nature that is born out of that need to not make this statement of this is not real, to not make this separation between this and that. To fully pass that, we need to allow for the inner cultivation of the intelligence which unfolds the silence in existence, and which in turn basically brings that silence and that love fully together as the deep waving ocean of the feminine, and not feminine just as in women, but the feminine part of us, men as women. The deep, deep, dark, black, light ocean, which flows fully effortlessly into and gulps up any aspect of existence that it doesn't know as itself in its recognition as black silent ocean. This is my experience, touching in on world upon world upon world in this existence. Being fully interested is the word, in moving in as that core of silence into every aspect of life, into every world, into every human, into every happening, every situation. And to let truth manifest, let truth be born through your innermost and deepest bowing. So nothing to defend, because there is no inner and outer. There's you rooting in silence, and then there's you bringing and birthing that silence into whatever part of life you're handling. Which means there is nothing to avoid. This impossible unless you fully come into all the way into the depths of yourself, unless you take that meeting with the pure power of creation, and realize, bow yourself, acknowledge the limitlessness of her, facing her completely, letting her fully clear you out on that belly level, which removes your personal separated manifestation as someone on ground, and just makes you an open window of humility and innocence in the face of her, and then letting her just flow into your life in every way, every angle, everything you touch. I'm talking all inclusion. And I'm talking a full facing of her as well. Yeah. I'll let that be the last words for tonight. And then I want to say that tomorrow, according to the schedule on your main page of this online retreat, there's a schedule there that invites you to move into engaging with the movement meditation, which is available on day 2. I invite you to bring the contemplations with you, to let the sharing that has been taking place here tonight, to let that move with you and grow in you, and to let your being digest, and to do that also with the contemplations that are available. I hope all of you can join tomorrow during the movement. We have a cross-consciousness effect across the globe where people are placed in many different places. And either way, I look very much forward to see you guys for meditation again tomorrow at 5. 2 meditations like today, and then for another evening of engaging conversations. It would be very lovely if you want to bring your contemplations, if you want to step in and play and investigate and see if we can dig out exactly those gems that are what your being is looking for in this time. For now, I'm going to say good night. Have a good night's sleep, and thank you for today. See you tomorrow, guys.